Okay, I think we can start. Good afternoon, and I'm happy to welcome you all during our webinar about resources for history teachers, especially resources about the Holocaust. Today's webinar is organized by the European Network Remembrance and Solidarity. My name is Urszula Bijoś. I'm a project coordinator of High Story Lessons website. I graduated with Master in History from University of Warsaw, and I have a pleasure to work with teachers for a long time, creating teaching resources, especially lesson scenarios and online courses. And today with me is Martyna Grądzka-Rejak. She's PhD, a historian and educator. She graduated from the Pedagogical University and Jagiellonian University in Kraków. And she currently works in the Warsaw Ghetto Museum, as well as the Historical Research Office of the Institute of National Remembrance. And last but not least, I would like to welcome all of you, teachers from all over the Europe, Romania, Italy, Germany, Hungary, and other countries, and as well representatives of different educational institutions. For now, your cameras are turned off, but I invite you to listen actively. We'll ask you some questions during the webinars on chat or through the Zoom poll. And there will be Q&A session at the very end of our webinar. But if you have like any technical questions which cannot wait until the end, you can ask them to Mia, who's on chat, our technical support today. The webinar will be recorded, but without chat, so your data or image won't be visible anywhere. Our meeting will last 1 hour and 15 minutes, so we will finish at 5:15 p.m. And after the webinar, I will send you an email with links and presentations, so you'll have everything which is shown on the screen on your email. This webinar is funded by the EU. So I would like to underline that it's open to everyone, no matter of your nationality or gender. Today we've got two goals of our meeting. During the first part, I will speak and we will discover free educational resources which are available on the High Story Lessons website. And then I will give the floor to Martyna, and we will learn how to plan and conduct classes on the Holocaust using a variety of educational materials. We've chosen the topic of Holocaust because we created a comprehensive selection of resources about this topic. And we work on that since 2005. And Martyna is author of one of the resources, and she will guide us through it. So maybe a few words about ENRS. It's a network of countries, those marked here in yellow. So Poland, Germany, Hungary, Slovakia, and Romania. And the blue countries, they're observer countries, but we've got a lot of partner institutions which are included here on the map. Our aim is to support the development of the European cultures of remembrance, not one culture, but more cultures of remembrance in Europe, because we would like to foster the dialogue about 20th century European history. We're doing it through a variety of different programs, and I will speak a little bit more about it. You can access our website, enrs.eu. So about the projects, first two of them, Sound in the Silence and In Between, they're a project for students, so that's why I put them here for you as for the teachers. In Sound in the Silence, a group of young people from 4 European countries meet in one of the memorial places. This year it was 9th Fort in Kaunas, Lithuania, and Mauthausen-Busen Memorial in Austria. The students, they took part in several days of workshops with artists, like rap workshops or dance classes, and then they invited local community for final performance to talk about their emotions, their experiences through art. Next edition of this program, of this project, will take place in Jasenovac in Croatia and in Wannsee near Berlin in Germany in autumn 2023. And majority of you agreed to receive a communication from us about our educational project. So you'll get an email if the registration will start, if you would like to participate, and it will be obviously on our website. The second project in between is designed for a bit older groups, rather students of the first years of the university. And this is summer school where participants conduct oral history research on the European borderlands. So the outcome of this project is a series of podcasts, which are as well available on our website. And this year, project took place in 3 localization: in Alsace on French-German borderland, in Cieszyn Silesia on Czech-Polish borderland, and Friuli Venezia Giulia, so Slovakian and Italian borderland. The third photo tells us about the campaign we are running to commemorate Day of the Victims of Totalitarian Regimes on 23 September, which is the date of signing the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact. And because of this campaign, we're sending a badge to different institutions. And then two next photos, they're about 2 outdoor exhibitions. And I mentioned them because we produced very interesting catalogs for this exhibition. So even if you cannot visit them, you can download a catalog in different languages, mainly in English, but for the second exhibition, it exists only also in German. And I believe that this is a kind of a teaching resource which can be used, because in the catalog you can find all the photos and maps, infographics, which are displayed on the big outdoor exhibitions. And the last photo tells us about conferences and workshops. So if you're more into academic research, we've got like a lot of events you can participate in. We've got the conference Genealogies of Memory next week happening in Warsaw. So that would be about our project. So before we go further, I will invite you to take part in a quick poll. And the question during this poll is, which teaching materials do you use most often in your work? And I will ask you, Mia, to put the poll. Okay, you can choose more than one option. So please vote. The question is, which teaching resources do you use most often in your work, like in the classroom? Primary sources, meaning the sources like from the past diaries or other documents. Okay, just a few more moments to fill up the form. You can write on chat if you're using some other resources we didn't think about to put them into the poll. Okay, hope you see the outcomes from the poll. And so mainly you're using photos or short movies, maps, of course, and a lot of primary sources. I hope that during today's webinar, we will be able to provide you with some of those tools. I think I would like to underline that those sources, they require from students and from you as well to use a lot of different skills, because if students need to use a map as a source, they first of all need to know where their country on the map is. If they need to analyze a photo, they should understand that if it's a photo coming back from the past, if it's a historical photo, it might be used in very different ways. Maybe it was used on purpose by its creator. So I hope that during today's webinar we will talk about one of like a lot of those materials. Yeah, thank you for taking part in the pool. And then I will move to our website. Its address highstorylessons.eu, and I will open it here in the browser to show you. It's here. This is main page. So if you access the website highstorylessons.eu, you will see this short animation on the beginning. You can scroll down, but the main page, this is something we're still working on. So first of all, I will recommend you to choose your own language. The website exists in Czech, German, English, Hungarian, Polish, Romanian, and Slovak. But we will today use English version because the majority of the teaching resources are available in English. Not all of them are translated into national languages, but we are like consistently translating new teaching resources. So I will choose English version and click here on the bars to discover the menu of the website. And first of all, we will discover the tab Resources for Teachers, which is like most important for us today. Okay, let's start with the animation. So as you said in the pool, the short movies, let's say they are like 5 or 6 minutes, or some of them are even shorter than 5 or 6 minutes. So we've got the animation about the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russian Revolution, Great Crisis, the Marshall Plan, a year in 1968. This is a series of animations I would like to talk about now. And I thought what would be the best option to use them in the classroom. First of all, you can of course show them just to the students and ask what was most important for them, what was what wasn't comprehensible for them, but you can use it in another way. For example, show an animation in your national language during history classes, and then ask English teacher to put the same animation in English class in order to in order to understand better and to work on vocabulary related to history of 20th century. The other option might be showing only some extracted photos from this animation. I will show you now one of the pages which one of the part of the animation about the collapse of the Soviet Union. So there's a tank, and you might ask the question why they think that the wheels of the tank truck, they are colorful. Is it tell them something, the colors of the wheels? What it can mean, because in the animation, we see the tank, and then the wheels, they're turning into the Olympic wheels, and now we can say something about the Olympics in Moscow in the 80s, and what was the background, historical background of this event. Okay, coming back to the animations. Another possible option to use the animation in the classroom is to show it but voiceless, so without the voice of the lecturer and without the music. So then students can think what kind of emotions this animation is building, and then put it again with the voice and check whether they understood correctly the images in the animation. Then I would like to talk, I will skip articles because Martyna will speak about it more. And then we've got the series of videos we created because of the campaign Remember August 23, the one I told about already. And here in the short movies, we're presenting individual stories of people who were the victims of totalitarian regimes. We present also the various types of harm, because there were some people who were killed, some people who were imprisoned, or others who couldn't publish because they were authors or artists, so they couldn't publish during communist or NS times. And we're doing it also because to show how different totalitarian systems, they used the same tools to achieve the same goals. So the systems, they were different, but students can find out the similarities as well. And then about infographics, I would like to speak about two of them. First, this is infographic about World War II, and here. For example, students they can discover how the fighting countries were changing the sides of the conflicts, which is, for me, when I was a student, it was always difficult to understand who was on which side, Axis and the Allies. So here in this infographic, they can discover two sides and how the countries they were sometimes changing the sides. And the last one, infographics I would like to talk about is the infographic about the Yalta conference, which is, I think, really difficult subject to understand for students, because it's tackled the political history. So they need to understand that it was on the very multinational level. But here you've got a little chart on the bottom. How far did each leader travel to Yalta? So they can see that the Roosevelt, he needs to travel more than 8,000 kilometers to get there, and Stalin, he took an armored train. So it's just a little detail, but it might happen them to remember and to understand more how important international event the Yalta Conference was. Okay, we'll come back to our website. So this is the tab resources for teachers. And we've got another resources about disinformation. Here you can find a lot of teaching resources about disinformation and memory wars, but we've got a separate webinar devoted to that subject next month on 23 November. So I will speak at the end about it, and you're already invited to participate. Okay, and the next one, it's called Timeline of the 20th Century. So I'm getting here. Here on the very top, you can choose the dates. And you will see less because I've chosen to see starting from 1917. And if you click on some event, for example, related to the history of Romania, and you can click description, you will get a file, few pages about this event, place to take notes. There are not a lot of, I would say, animations, photos in those files, but it was written by the historians, and it might be just a compact sum up about this event. You can print, give out to your students, and ask them, for example, what kind of questions you would like to ask after reading this paragraph. Okay, so this you can find in the timeline of the 20th century tab. And the last one, it's called Culture and Art. And here there are bigger, longer articles for rather older students. I would say the ones studying, for example, history of art. If you choose painting, here are several articles about the paintings, for example, women's painting. And here again, some work of arts. If you click on them, they're getting bigger. And this again can be something which can be consulted by the older students. Okay, that was about our website. And as I said at the beginning, we'll send you the links to the website. And now I will invite Martyna, who will speak more about one of the resources available on the website. Yeah. So I will stop screen sharing.
Okay, hi. So can I show my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a short technical break. I hope it's visible.
Yeah, you can full screen.
Yes. I can't find it now. Okay, it's now in full size. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to be with you here in this afternoon. And my task today is to briefly actually describe this educational kit prepared by Professor Piotr Trojański, who is educator, methodologist, academic teacher at the Pedagogical University in Krakow, and obviously by me. This educational tools, as Urszula already mentioned, is available on the internet website of the European Network Remembrance and Solidarity on the so-called High Story lessons. So I'm going to show today just a piece of it because it's a quite wide and diverse package, but I hope after this presentation, maybe I will encourage you to search a bit and to use this package. In the ideal world, I would like to encourage you to use it as a whole, but it can be also divided into some thematic PDF files like we did it on the website, or you can use a single exercise source task from it. Depends on your needs and depends on what you want to present during your classes. And when I was preparing myself to this today's presentation, I decided that I'm gonna give you a short background actually, and I owe you a kind of explanation why we did this educational materials. And what were the origins, the background of it, because those materials are strongly connected to one of the exhibition which Urszula already mentioned, which established a few years ago. But as you may imagine, the exhibition is a good and nice and important tool but you cannot show everything on the exhibition, and we wanted to make something which is a bit deeper than what we were able to show on each panels. And this exhibition, which I'm mentioning, it was a kind of a starting point to make this educational package about the Holocaust and about the origins of Holocaust and its aftermath. And in 2018, the European Network Remembrance and Solidarity, in cooperation with the Polin Museum, Museum of History of Polish Jewry based in Warsaw, together also with the Silent Heroes Memorial Center from Berlin, we prepared a kind of traveling exhibition which is entitled Between Life and Death, Stories of Rescue During the Holocaust. And obviously, as you can imagine, the leading theme of this exhibition was an experience of Jews hiding from the German Nazi extermination machine, and also people who helped them, often at the risk of their own life. This problem was presented on an examples of selected European countries. We picked up several of them. Obviously, we wanted to show more, but we picked up Croatia, Denmark, France, Hungary, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Romania, Poland, Ukraine, and also we used the Third Reich example. And
but also, sorry to disturb you, but we see your view. Try to make a full screen. You can tap F5.
Yes, you cannot see it like that.
We see the slides, the pages on the left.
Okay, it's better now. Let me make it once again.
Yeah, let's try. Sorry to disturb you. And then
it's working like that now. Can you see the whole presentation, or still this
still project? Like your view as a presenter?
Okay. So I did it with F5. I did it from the panel. Yes.
And you cannot click leave the presenter mode.
Everything what I was able to do, I did. Maybe you can show it from your position. You have this presentation on your desk.
Yeah, just a second. You can speak and I will change it.
So yes, I was talking about this exhibition, and as I mentioned, our purpose was, apart from showing the historical context of the World War II, we focused on a description of the situation of Jews in individual, mentioned by me already, countries. And we obviously focus on the relations with non-Jewish inhabitants. And each country was illustrated by the story of two sides, one from the perspective of the person who received help, and one of the perspective from the person who was like the help provider. On the exhibition, we seek to give a voice to both rescuers, as I mentioned, and survivors, to let them speak about what they went through during World War II. And we draw attention to their endeavors, courage, and will to live. Their fates are shown against, as I mentioned, a broader historical background, but it was obviously not enough to describe everything on a short text, which are available to present on the panels. What we were aware of and what we were focusing on is that in the face of the Jewish genocide, local population of occupied countries had to make choices that, can I have next slide? About yes. The previous one about the exhibition, yes. That they had to make choices they would never imagine. So how one should react to this mass atrocity. And obviously the attitudes differed widely from the majority who remained passive, fearing reprisal and concentrating on the fate of their own families or on their own fates. There were also those who exploited the tragic plight of Jews for their own gain, engaged in blackmailing, denunciation, and even murder. And at the same time, others offered help to Jews seeking to flee ghettos and looking for hideouts. The helpers were also driven by various motives like humanitarian, religious, personal, political, or material. And it is worth to mention that for some of them, it also was a form of resistance. And all these issues, which I'm mentioning now, the attitudes, motives, we were trying to show on the exhibition. And this is also a leading motive of these educational materials, which we prepared after the opening of the exhibition. It's worth to mention also that the offering assistance to Jews was severely punished by the Germans, depend on the country and on the if it was an exile Axis country, or it was, for example, the occupied country, one could lose their job, be beaten in prison, or sent to a concentration camp. In some countries, as for example, occupied Poland and the occupied areas of Soviet Union, Ukraine, Lithuania, Belarus, as well as in Serbia, the sentence could be even harsher, the death penalty I have in mind. All attempts at offering help were thus extremely risky, and the decision to aid the Jews was often inextricably links one fate to that of the person who was doomed to death. Many of those who received help did not survive the war. Many rescuers did not talk about their good deeds either. And this sort of large introduction about the exhibition is to show you first why we did this exhibition, and later on, it's a part of the answer why we decided to extend it and prepare, as I mentioned, large educational kit to enable students and teachers to use it. And obviously, in the ideal world, one can use it together, like first see the exhibition and then use the educational materials. But the exhibition is traveling only to several places. So the materials which are available online were also planned to be used without seeing the exhibition, and can only accompany the catalogs, which is available online in several languages. Urszula already mentioned that we have English version, Polish version, and German version too. And since the official opening of this exhibition, which took place in Brussels in 2018, this exhibition was traveling to many European countries, also to Japan, spent there like 2 years. And the exhibition venues in individual countries have often been leading cultural and educational centers visited by masses of young people. Bearing in mind the special interest resulting, as you may guess, from the educational potential of this exhibition, we offered to develop a set of didactic materials that will be helpful for teachers in using the exhibition for educational purpose, or extending its more appropriate information about the Holocaust, which did not appear on the panels or in the catalog. But nevertheless, as I mentioned before, this kit can be used without the exhibition too, and it can serve as a support for your classes, for your school curriculum, for individual students who want to deepen their knowledge or are trying to prepare for some special contests about the Holocaust and any other reasons. The package is addressed to the school children interested in the history of World War II, and especially in the history of the Holocaust, but also on the history of the genocide, prejudices, anti-Semitism, and also the story about the post-war era and how the Holocaust influenced the post-war period and what was its aftermath. The methodological concept is based on the use of this exhibition and catalog as the main teaching resource. Materials we develop play a supporting and inspiring, mostly, role for teachers and educators to undertake creative activities or during the history classes, literature, ethics, and any other lessons which you might teach in your schools. Based on the prepared didactic materials, teachers and educators will be able to develop their own educational activities devoted to World War II and to the Holocaust. On the other hand, participating students, and this is what we wanted to achieve the most, can deepen their knowledge and shape various humanitarian and civic attitudes, mainly empathy toward Jewish victims and people who helped them during World War II. But also we stress and we focus on different victims of Nazi regime as homosexuals, handicapped people, Jehovah's Witness, priests, political prisoners, Slavs. So this is all placed in a more wide context. And actually we divided this package into like four, I would say four groups, 4 parts. Can I have the next slide, please? So first we created kind of selected biographies of people who were, from our perspective, important in terms of teaching about the Holocaust. Obviously, because we did it from our, like the Polish history perspective, we chose people who were important on the general government ground or other part of the Poland occupied by Nazi Germany, but we also included biographies, short biographies of people who were involved like in the hierarchy of the Third Reich, like Eichmann, Himmler, and other people. And these selected biographies, I can imagine you can develop based on this example according to your own needs and add more biographies of people who were important in your local context. Can I have the next slide, please? And the same story is with the second part of this material, so with the glossary. This glossary is is more universal, I would say, because we try to explain the more universal topics like anti-Judaism, anti-Semitism, Aryan papers, Aryacide, Holocaust in general, genocide. So it's more universal for teachers from different countries. But the same as I mentioned with the biographies, I believe you can somehow extend this glossary according to your local needs and even work with the students how to implement other topics, problems which should be explained during Holocaust lessons about the Holocaust. We also made a special timeline regarding the period in between 1933 up until 1945, but the same story, this timeline contains more dates and events connected to the history of general government and occupied Polish territories. But obviously we couldn't skip the most important dates from the broader perspective, like European perspective of countries which were presented on the exhibition, like Denmark, Italy, Romania. So yes, you can find there also different dates regarding to the history of other countries. But I can imagine that this can be also improved somehow, and you can add something what is more local and from your local perspective to this timeline too. And those materials are divided into 10 units, 10 subjects. I'm going to discuss what's in the subject in a while, but all of them are divided into PDF files, and those PDF files are placed in a similar order. So usually you start with the context, with a short text, like about 4 or 5 pages maybe, which explain each subject and therefore give to the students a portion of knowledge about what's in this subject and what next they will develop more through the particular exercises. Then you have different charts and different sources, and sources were also diverse. So you can find there photographs from the era, photographs of memorial sites, cartoons, primary sources, pieces of testimony, maps, charts, drawings, diagrams, propaganda cartoons, different kind of sources to also give to the students a diversity of sources, and therefore encourage them to combine the sources and to learn more through this comparative perspective. And like you can see on this slide, the first subject is dedicated, is the most general, is dedicated to the period in between 1933 to 1939, and this is the path to the genocide. So we try to explain what was happening in Third Reich before the outbreak of World War II, and we try to describe how the Nazis came and rise to power, but also discuss the atmosphere in Germany in the 20s and the 30s of 20th century. What is important of this subject? So here we try to focus on the large and overwhelming, I would even say, propaganda of the Nazi Germany implemented from the primary schools, implemented to the society, this propaganda against the Jews and other people perceived by the Nazi regime as strangers. So we used a lot of propaganda materials, which obviously need a proper explanation that this is propaganda tool, but also it's good to show it to the students, especially in today's perspective, when we also have through the internet a lot of fake news, a lot of prejudices, which can be depicted exactly in similar way. One also of the important point of this first subject is like we trying to show a different way of escape or attempt to escape from the Third Reich before the outbreak of war. And I'm thinking about the way of or trying to emigrate from the Reich before 1939. Can I have the next slide, please? The second subject is about the mass murder of the Jews and its stages, and it's about the story which happened after Second World War, outbreak of the Second World War. In this subject, we pay special attention to the identification of the following first legal steps introduced by the occupiers against the Jewish community, deprivation of their financial resources, limitation in the sphere of personal rights, and stigmatization, as well as alienation. And therefore, we try to show the direct path to the genocide, which on the Polish ground appeared after 1941 and the outbreak of war in between Third Reich Germany and the Soviet Union. Can I have the next slide, please? Subject number 3, and together with the subject number 4, are placing the information in more wider and general context, not only related to the Holocaust, but the situation of each country under German occupation in terms of political, social, and everyday life under German occupation. And this is, it came because we couldn't show it on the exhibition so much. There was not enough space to discuss also those aspects. And we believe it's important to place the information about the Holocaust and the situation of Jewish people in each country in a wider perspective, that's right, we decided to also devote 2 subjects to this broader comparative perspective. And first, in subject number 3, we focus more on the political agenda, the way how the fights were developed in each part of Europe, how the following countries were conquered and what was next. And in subject number 4, we discussed the everyday life of ordinary societies of France, let's say Croatia, occupied Poland, Lithuania, under German occupation. And we try to give a glimpse for the students through exercises, how the life of ordinary people looked like and what they should be aware of. Can I have the next slide, please? Subjects number 5 and number 6 are discussing different attitudes toward the Holocaust and toward the Jewish escapees from the ghettos and toward Jews who were not in the ghettos but were forced to and closed in transit camps and then the other places before they were deported to the death camps. And in both 5 and 6, we discuss different attitudes from the individual and collective and institutional aid in the subject number 5, up until the passivity and complicity in the subject number 6. And I think the most difficult part of those 2 subjects were how to describe to the students and how to show the passivity of the society and why was that, how to give the chance to explain that and give them proper exercises to discuss those issues and show it in a broader perspective of different European countries. We also took advantage to discuss the so-called collaboration with the Nazi Germany in terms of the Holocaust. And we discussed pogroms in the different countries here, and we give different sources. And we were trying to avoid these pictures taken during the pogroms, which shows the victims or humiliation of the victims. And we did it on purpose because we don't want to humiliate the victims anymore. So yes, we use several like drastic pictures in this kit, educational kit, but we were trying to avoid it, especially in terms of, I don't know, activity of the Einsatzgruppen or the pogroms mentioned by me already, not to humiliate the victims more. Can I have the next slide, please? In the topic number 7, we are discussing, or we're trying to discuss different survival strategies of Jewish people in the face of the Holocaust. Basically, we chose the examples from the general government where all death camps and Action Reinhardt took place, but you can find also examples from different countries, and we are trying to show the variety of attitudes and survival strategies of Jews during World War II, from the time of the ghetto, and then even in the death camps, like we're trying to discuss the uprisings in Sobibor and Treblinka and Auschwitz camp to show that not all of them remain passive, and some of them took advantage and then were trying to fight against Nazi German oppressors. Can I have the next? Okay. In subject number 8, we are coming back actually in terms of chronology to the period from 1933, and we discuss the other victims of Nazi German crimes, Sinti and Roma people, handicapped people, Jehovah's Witness, Slavic people, and other groups targeted by the discrimination and in terms of legal discrimination, but also all this genocidal policy implemented by the Third Reich. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. The last subject in this part is related to the history after 1945. So we discuss here the trials against Nazi German perpetrators who were captured after the World War II and were able to stand before the court. But also part of this last subject is different way of different reactions actually of Jews who survived the Holocaust, how they reacted after in 40s, 50s, and in other years, how those experienced from the World War II affected their life after the end of the war. And we focus also here on different forms of memory and commemoration of the Holocaust, as well as we tackle or touch the difficult topic of the Holocaust denials, or in general, the way how some people denial that this genocide took place. Can I have the next slide, please? Besides those 9 subjects, we have one extra packet, which is related to a special group of people who, during World War II, took advantage and were trying to save as much Jewish people as possible. And I'm talking about the diplomats aiding Jews. And this packet was prepared separately and was prepared together, and it's accompanied by the short movie. I'm going to discuss this movie in a while. But this packet consists of few worksheets dedicated or devoted to particular people like Francis Edward Foley from Great Britain, Karl Lutz, Wallenberg, Archbishop Rota, or Hyune Sugihara, the Japanese consul in Kaunas in Lithuania, or the Bernays group, who was based in Switzerland. And our goal was to depict their biographies and show the way how they were trying to support Jewish people during World War II, what they did, what kind of effort they took, and what was the result out of it. And as you can see, we use here also different sources, not only the biograms or pictures of particular people, but also maps and diplomatic documents, testimonies, and different sources we were able to get regarding these particular stories. Can I have the next slide? And together with this last subject, there is a short, just a 6-minute movie about the righteous diplomacy, which you might present to your students and discuss later on about this particular attitude towards the Holocaust, and discuss how people involved in diplomacy on different level could support and what they did during World War II. Can I have the next slide, please? Oh, that was the last, okay. Last but not least, I would just like to briefly sum up, because I mentioned that in this educational materials, we have exercises dedicated to particular sources, but we also offer something to extend the knowledge and to enable students to search for additional information. And this is the special, like, summarizing task after each chart. It's after every unit, and encourage students to find additional sources, additional information, maybe local also examples, and think about it deeper, and then present those thoughts in classes and to share their feelings, their emotions, their knowledge with other students. And just to summarize, as you could see, one of our focus were the stories of people who supported Jews during World War II, and those who received the help from them. And we try to, through the stories, we try to support students and try to motivate them, and try to encourage them to learn from these stories. Also, something for nowadays situation. When we did this educational tools, the war, it was like piece of the history back into 1945, and was like something what happened 70 years ago. But slightly nowadays the situation changed, and we perceive this educational tool as a kind of also teaching materials to create a kind of open society, to how to teach students to fight prejudices and different kind of phobias, and therefore to learn them to become more open and to fight against such a situation like happened 70 years ago. And we believe that the memory of help offered to those standing in the shadow of the Holocaust, between life and death, like it was in during World War II, is a moral imperative for us. It serves not only to pass on knowledge about heroes of those days, but above all to make their humanity and integrity like kind of our guiding light. And we believe that through these materials we can also not only learn the history, but to encourage young people how to behave nowadays and what kind of attitude to choose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martyna, for going through those resources. And I hope you'll be able to use them in your work. I will just repeat where you can find them. And of course, we'll send you this information in an email as well. So if you're entering resources for teachers tab, there are all the PDFs Martyna was talking about. Here you can find them and go through them. And so thank you again. And in terms of the teaching resources about the Holocaust, I would like to share just one more thing with you. We've got 15 minutes more. That's for sure. We'll end at 5:15. So I would like to show you the website you can access by clicking here, Statistic and Catastrophe, Questioning Eichmann's Numbers. This is a website available in Polish, German, and English. If you will click here on the top, you will see an intro, like a interesting short movie about the Wannsee Conference. So the conference which took place in 1942, which organized the Holocaust in Europe, so deportations of and murdering of Jews after 42. And here you can see a map of Europe. And if you click on the photos, you can learn about history of a given person, because the aim of the website is to show like individual stories of people who were affected by the Holocaust, who died during the Holocaust, but not only, but also the survivors. And if you click on the given country, you can see information of how many Jews were included into the protocol of Eichmann, the protocol ending the Wannsee conference. And the aim of the website is to show that the numbers given in the protocol, they were not accurate. They were actually very wrong. So we're trying to put here documents showing that the number of Jews were mistaken by the Nazi officials, and that it might influence the fate of a lot of people, of really millions of people in Europe. So that's the thing I would like to talk about on the end. Maybe moving to summing up our webinar, I would like to ask you maybe to write on chat which of the teaching resources we've showed you today you would like to use in the future. Which of the animation, time axis, and other resources we talked about might be useful in your work? So just a few seconds maybe to think about it, and I will just show the next slide to why am I asking these questions, because we'll have next webinar next month, as I said, on 23 November at 4 p.m. So the same hour as now. And if you will have opportunity to use one of those materials Martyna and I was talking about, we would invite you to share your opinions during the next webinar. It would be very important as information for us if you have time to use it. And I wrote that you can use timelines, animations, high story lessons at all, map and timelines. So you are invited to use them. And the next webinar during the next webinar, Łukasz Kamiński will speak on how to spot historical fake news. So we will present you resources available on high story lessons, and Łukasz will speak more in general about memory wars, about also in context of the ongoing war in Ukraine. But also historically how the fake news have a very, very long history, and how we can fight against them in those times. Okay, so now it's time for you. Maybe you've got some questions related to the platform or to Martyna's presentation. Yes, thank you for this voice that biographies can be useful as a resource to debate and to discover profiles of the victims. That's the purpose of them. So just really not to show, you know, big numbers. Their numbers are of course very, very important, but also to show some stories.
That was one of our goals, to talk this difficult history through the perspective of individuals, and not the most famous names which are mentioned usually in textbooks, but in terms of the exhibition and the resources on this educational materials, we picked up also stories of ordinary people, not well known, just to give an example of how it was actually, how the attitudes were more common in this ordinary society.
You're writing as well about the timelines, and we invite you to use them. And maybe just a comment that that it's important to show not only political events on the timeline, but also events from the social history, which it might be more difficult, but to maybe present like political events as points, and the social events rather as lines who are rather on the background, but they're as well important, not to stuck only in big political events like Yalta Conference and nothing really in the background. And speaking about time axis, the goal is not only to remember the dates, to speak, we know that history is a lot about dates, but to develop in the students rather chronological thinking, and rather let's say to let them really sometime understand that some events had to happen before the others. So just encourage them to discover, to guess which event had to happen before the other.
Yes, the chronology is very important, but history is also a process or processes. So we were also trying to show these different aspects of social lives in different European countries, and how the processes took place, and how the process implemented on the history of Holocaust too.